Good afternoon. This is All India Radio. I'm Tanvi Taneja, and with me is Saira Mujtaba with the Midday News. The headlines. In Bihar, all arrangements in place for second phase of assembly elections. 94 constituencies spread over 17 districts to go for polls tomorrow. National COVID recovery rate reaches 91.68%. In Assam, schools reopen after a gap of 8 months. India asks Pakistan to immediately vacate Gilgit-Baltistan instead of altering its status. U.S. presidential campaign draws to a close as Donald Trump and Joe Biden crisscross the country. And in IPL cricket, Delhi Capitals to take on Royal Challengers Bangalore in Abu Dhabi today. As the nation fights the COVID-19 pandemic, we begin with a message of precaution to stay safe and protected by following 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, and focusing on hand hygiene and face hygiene. And now the news in detail. In Bihar, campaigning for the third and final phase is underway in full swing in 78 assembly constituencies spread over 15 districts. Polling for this phase will take place on 7th of November. Star campaigners and senior leaders of all parties are on a whirlwind tour. Leaders of the NDA and Grand Alliance are also addressing a series of public meetings and election rallies. Bcci star campaigner and CM of Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath, addressed a rally in Valmiki Nagar in West Champaran. Mr. Adityanath said that only the BJP and the NDA can give strong leadership and stable government. He said Prime Minister Narendra Modi-led government has given a befitting reply to Pakistan on several occasions. Mr. Adityanath said NDA can take care of both the internal and border security of the country. Senior BJP leader and Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will hold multiple rallies today in Raxaul, Mazorganj, Khajoli in East Champaran, Sitamarhi and Madhubani districts. Leaders of opposition party are also going all out to raise the pitch in favour of their candidates. More from our correspondent.
Chief Ministerial candidate of Grand Alliance, Tejasvi Prasad Yadav, is holding public meetings in Raniganj and Narpatganj in Araria. Mr. Yadav claimed that only the Grand Alliance government can give governance of social harmony. Rashtriya Lok Samata Party Chief Upendra Kushwaha addressed rallies in Riga, Batnaha and Parihar in Sitamarhi. JDU President and Chief Minister Nitish Kumar held rallies in Alamnagar and Bihariganj in Madhepura, where he said if voted to power, he will make Bihar a developed state. Jan Adhikar Party President Pappu Yadav alleged that the BJP and RJD have hands in glove and they will go for post-poll alliance discarding JDU. Leaders of Congress, CPI-ML, CPI and CPM also holding public meetings in poll-bound areas. Dharmendra Kumar Rai, AIR News, Patna.
Meanwhile, for the second phase of assembly elections, all arrangements are also in place. 94 constituencies spread over 17 districts including Patna, Vaishali, Sitamarhi, Darbhanga and Madhubani will go to polls in this phase tomorrow. Over 2.85 crore voters will decide the political future of 1,463 candidates. 146 women and 513 independent candidates and 1 transgender are in the fray. Polling will begin from 7 a.m. and will continue till 6 p.m. Chief Electoral Officer H.R. Srinivas said polling will be up to 4 p.m. in 8 Naxal-affected constituencies including Raghopur, Paru, Meenapur and Aloli. Additional Chief Electoral Officer Sanjay Kumar Singh said security forces have been deployed in Naxal-infested areas to ensure trouble-free polling. Our correspondent reports that all arrangements are in place for the elections in the state.
Election Commission has instructed to follow COVID protocols during the conduct of elections. Every person has been instructed to wear mask during election-related activities. Thermal scanning of all persons shall be carried out and sanitizers shall be made available at all locations during polling. All polling booths will be sanitized. In view of COVID situation, only 1,000 electors will exercise their right of franchise at each polling station instead of 1,500. Chief Ministerial candidate of Grand Alliance, Tejasvi Yadav, is seeking re-election from Raghopur Assembly constituency. political fortunes of 7 ministers of Nand Kishore Yadav, Shravan Kumar, Rana Randhir Singh, Ram Sevak Singh, Maheshwar Hazare, Suresh Sharma and Madan Sahni will be decided in this phase. Krishna Kumar Lal, AIR News, Madhubani.
Elections are being held in 3 phases for 243-member Bihar Assembly polls. While the first phase was held on October 28th, voting in the other 2 phases will be held on November 3rd and 7th. Counting of votes will take place on November 10th. In Madhya Pradesh, campaigning for by-elections in the 28 assembly seats of the state has come to an end yesterday. The Election Commission has sealed the boundaries of these states in view of fair and peaceful polling. All these seats will go to polls tomorrow and the results will be declared on November 10th. A report.
A total of 9,361 polling stations and 1,441 associate polling stations have been set up for 28 assembly seats in Madhya Pradesh. Associate polling stations have been set up at those polling stations where there are more than 1,000 voters. Polling parties are being sent to their respective assembly seats. If we talked about election campaign, 6 leaders in BJP, Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan, State President V.D. Sharma, Union Ministers Narendra Singh Tomar and Prahlad Patel, Senior Leader Uma Bharti and Rajya Sabha MP Jyotiraditya Scindia attended a total of 274 meetings, rallies, conferences and road shows. BJP leaders contacted voters around 9 times in each seat. At the same time, for the Congress, former Chief Ministers Kamal Nath and Digvijay Singh, senior leaders Sachin Pilot, Ajay Singh, Dr. Govind Singh, Sajjan Singh Verma led the campaign. Congress leaders approached voters through a total of 170 election campaign. Over 63 lakh voters will decide the fate of 355 candidates tomorrow in these elections. Sanjeev Sharma, AIR News, Bhopal.
In Uttar Pradesh, polling parties have been dispatched to their respective polling centres for the by-election in 7 assembly seats scheduled tomorrow. Counting will be held on 10th of November. Chief Election Officer of State Ajay Kumar Shukla told AIR that in the wake of the COVID pandemic, all necessary arrangements have been made for free, fair and corona-free polling. He said that temperature of all voters will be checked before entering the booth.
सभी बूथों को सैनिटाइज किया गया है। पूरे तरीके से बूथ सैनिटाइज रहेंगे। जो वहाँ पे हमारे कार्मिक हैं वो फेस शील्ड, मास्क, ग्लव्स सबके साथ रहेंगे और जो वोटर भी वोट डालने जाएंगे उनके लिए भी ड्रग्स की व्यवस्था, सैनिटाइजेशन, हैंड वॉश यानी हाथ धोने की, तो सभी व्यवस्थाएं सुनिश्चित की गई। सभी जगह जो सामाजिक दूरी है उसके लिए 2-2 गज की दूरी पे गोले बने हैं ताकि लाइन उस तरह की उसमें एक दूसरे के संपर्क में लोग न। प्रत्येक मतदेय स्थल पर जो थर्मल स्कैनर होते हैं उसके माध्यम से जो हमारे प्रशिक्षित कर्मी है वो उनका टेम्परेचर लेकर ही उनको अंदर जाने देंगे।
In Gujarat, poll campaigning for by-elections in 8 assembly seats ended last evening. Polling will be held tomorrow, while counting of votes will be held on the 10th of November. AIR Ahmedabad correspondent reports that all preparations are in place for free and fair polling. More from our Ahmedabad correspondent.
The Election Commission has completed all preparations for tomorrow's polling in Gujarat. By-elections are being held on 8 assembly seats, which include Abadasa, Limbdi, Morbi, Dhari, Karjan, Gadda SC and Dang and Kaprada ST seats. Total 81 candidates are in play for 8 assembly seats. Polling will be held from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. More than 18,17,000 voters, including 9,03,353 women and 34 third-gender voters, are eligible to use their franchise. All 8 seats were vacated following the resignations of Congress MLAs early this year during the Rajya Sabha elections. Yogesh Pandya, AIR News, Ahmedabad.
In Karnataka, by-election to Sira and RR Nagar will be held tomorrow. Sira was earlier held by JDS and RR Nagar by Congress. A report.
Pitched electoral battle was seen in both constituencies till the outdoor campaign came to an end yesterday evening. In Sira, former Minister T.V. Jayachandra is contesting from Congress against Dr. C.M. Rajesh Gowda of BJP. The widow of B. Satyanarayana is fielded by JDS. In R.R. Nagar, two-time MLA Muniratna is contesting from BJP against H. Kusuma of Congress. JDS has fielded V. Krishnamurthy. Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa, Deputy Chief Minister Dr. C.N. Ashwath Narayana from BJP, D.K. Shivkumar and Siddaramaiah from Congress, and H.D. Devegowda and H.D. Kumaraswamy from JDS campaigned in the constituencies. The counting of votes will be held on November 10th. Sudhindra, AIR News, Bengaluru.
India has firmly rejected the attempt by Pakistan to bring material changes to a part of the Indian territory under its illegal and forcible occupation. India reiterated that Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, including the area of so-called Gilgit-Baltistan, are an integral part of the country by virtue of legal, complete and irrevocable accession of Jammu and Kashmir to the Union of India in 1947. In response to media queries on remarks by Pakistani Prime Minister in Gilgit yesterday regarding his government's decision to accord provisional provincial status to the so-called Gilgit-Baltistan, External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Anurag Srivastava said, Pakistan has no locus standi on territories illegally and forcibly occupied by it. He said, such attempts by Pakistan intended to camouflage its illegal occupation cannot hide the grave human rights violations, exploitation and denial of freedom for over 7 decades to the people residing in these Pakistan-occupied territories. The spokesperson said instead of seeking to alter the status of these Indian territories, Pakistan should immediately vacate all areas under its illegal occupation. Speaking to AIR News, former diplomat Ashok Sajjanhar said, Pakistan has no locus standi on Gilgit-Baltistan.
Pakistan has decided to convert Gilgit-Baltistan, what was earlier known as the northern areas, into the 5th province of the country. This has been very strongly criticized by India because Pakistan has no locus standi over this area. It is a part of the Union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. It is an integral part of India and it was the accession to India took place in October of 1947. So Pakistan has no position to take any action and India has very strongly objected to it. The people living in Gilgit-Baltistan have also very strongly objected to this decision by Pakistan.
With less than 36 hours to go for the U.S. presidential elections, President Donald Trump is campaigning for support in 4 battleground states today, while Democratic rival Joe Biden focuses on Pennsylvania and Ohio during the final day of campaigning. Trump will hold rallies in North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and 2 in Michigan. He won those states in 2016 against Democrat Hillary Clinton. Trump will wrap up his campaign in Grand Rapids, Michigan, the same place he concluded his 2016 presidential run, with a post-midnight rally on Election Day. Trump claimed he had momentum and promised an economic revival and imminent delivery of a vaccine to fight the pandemic. Joe Biden and his running mate Kamala Harris are in Pennsylvania, splitting up to hit all 4 corners of a state that has become vital to the former vice president's hopes. Joe Biden will rally union members and members of the African American community in Pittsburgh area. Biden accuses Trump of giving up on fighting the pandemic, which has killed more than 230,000 Americans and cost millions of jobs. Former President Barack Obama, for whom Biden served as vice president for 8 years, will hold a Get Out the Vote rally in Atlanta, Georgia today, before closing out the campaign in the evening with a rally in Miami. A record-setting over 9 crore early votes have been cast, either in person or by mail, according to the U.S. Elections Project, representing about 40% of eligible voters.
You are listening to the Midday News on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. In Bihar, all arrangements in place for second phase of assembly elections. 94 constituencies spread over 17 districts to go to polls tomorrow. National COVID recovery rate reaches 91.68%. In Assam, schools reopen after a gap of 8 months. India asks Pakistan to immediately vacate Gilgit-Baltistan instead of altering its status. U.S. presidential campaign draws to a close as Donald Trump and Joe Biden crisscross the country. In IPL cricket, Delhi Capitals to take on Royal Challengers Bangalore in Abu Dhabi today. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle @AIR News Alert.
चलो मिलकर एक शुरुआत करें, चलो एक फैसला आज करें, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे, चलो एक इरादा करते हैं, चलो कुछ वादा करते हैं, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे.
India has achieved another significant milestone in its fight against COVID, as more than 75 lakh people have recovered so far. The national COVID recovery rate has reached 91.68%. The recovered cases in the country is over 13 times the number of active cases, with overall recovery of nearly 75,45,000 patients. In the last 24 hours, nearly 53,000 patients have recovered and have been discharged, whereas the new confirmed cases reported in the same time span dropped below 50,000 and stood at nearly 45,000. The active caseload of the country has also fallen below 7%. The total positive cases in the country today stand at 5,61,908, which comprises merely 6.83% of the total reported cases. With the high number of COVID patients recovering every day, along with a steadily falling and sustained low mortality rate, India's trend of registering decreasing active cases continues. The Health Ministry said that enhanced countrywide medical infrastructure, implementation of centre standard treatment protocol by states and UTs have led to a persistent increase in the number of total recoveries in the country. It said total dedication and commitment of doctors, paramedics and frontline workers led to a commensurate dip in the fatality rate, which stands at 1.49%. The Health Ministry informed that 496 case fatalities were reported in the past 24 hours, of which nearly 75% are concentrated in 10 states and union territories. The country has crossed another milestone in terms of COVID testing. With testing of nearly 8,56,000 COVID samples in the last 24 hours, the cumulative testing figure has surpassed the 11 crore mark. The central government and ICMR have scaled up testing infrastructure in a calibrated manner in the country. India's testing capacity has touched 15 lakh per day, ensuring easily accessible COVID-19 tests for all. It said this also leads to low fatality rate, saving many precious lives.
In Assam, educational institutions have reopened in the state after a gap of 8 months. Official sources said that classes have resumed following all COVID-19 protocols. The students, teachers and staff were screened at the entry points. Our correspondent reports that attendance of students is not compulsory and will be purely based on parental consent. Hostels of all educational institutions will also remain closed till further orders. A report.
The schools in Assam have been reopened today across the state with strict COVID-19 protocol. The SOP issued by the Education Department asked the school authorities to follow social distancing and other precautionary measures to prevent the spread of the virus. To minimize the risk, schools are following the odd even system so that a student needs to attend classes 3 days only in a week. Chief Minister Sarvananda Sonowal already issued instructions for extensively using audiovisual tools and other attractive methods such as storytelling in the first month. Apart from classroom teaching, online classes will also to be continued. Manas Pratim Sharma, AR News, Guwahati.
In Tamil Nadu, the active COVID-19 caseload has declined to under 21,000. 2,504 new infections were reported yesterday, while 3,644 people recovered. More from our correspondent.
A remarkable feature in the state is the recovery rate that has gone up to 95.58%. The active caseload figure has retraced the level on the 16th June. The COVID curve is on a downward spiral in the state for long. The case mortality rate remains at 1.53%. The number of samples tested for the viral infection crossed the 1 crore mark yesterday, though the number of people tested remains at 97.6 lakhs so far. Except 5 districts that reported new infections in 3 digits, all others reported below 100, with 4 less than 10. Jai Singh, AR News, Chennai.
In Bihar, COVID-19 recovery rate has improved to 96.08%. The number of active cases in the state is continuously declining. Currently, 7,437 patients are undergoing treatment at various hospitals. 1,194 patients have recovered in the last 24 hours, while 777 new cases were reported. Over 2,09,006 patients have so far recovered from the infection in the state.
In Telangana, 922 new cases of COVID-19 have been reported during the past 24 hours. With this, the total COVID cases in the state went up to 2,40,970. The recovery rate marginally improved to 92.12%, with 1,456 more people recovering yesterday. The total deaths in the state rose to 1,348, following 7 more people succumbing to the infection during the past 24 hours. Currently, the state has over 17,000 active cases, out of which over 14,000 are in home isolation. In Tripura, 77 fresh cases of COVID-19 were detected in the past 24 hours, while 186 patients were discharged after recovery during the period. With this, the total number of infected people rose to 30,794, out of which 29,211 patients have recovered. As of now, there are 1,212 active cases in the state. In Maharashtra, online classes have started from today for all Class 11 students. State Minister for School Education, Varsha Gaikwad, tweeted that students can start their studies in the discipline of their choice even if they are not admitted in any college. A report.
Maharashtra government has decided to start online classes for all the class 11 students in all 3 streams of science, commerce and art. Junior college teachers will take these lectures. Students can start their studies in the disciplines of their choice, even if they are not admitted in any college. Pre-registration is mandatory to attend these lectures. After registration, schedule and details of the classes will be sent to the students through SMS and email. Students are urged to register for the online classes on the website of the State Council for Educational Research and Training. Meanwhile, the online classes would be conducted in 3 shifts every day. 50 registered students from different colleges will have to attend the online classes via Zoom app. Madhubani Elections, AIR News, Mumbai.
The News Services Division of All India Radio, in its bilingual live phone-in program tonight, will bring you a special discussion on COVID-19. Dr. Lieutenant General Ved Chaturvedi, rheumatologist, Sir Gangaram Hospital, will participate in the discussion. Listeners can ask questions to the expert on toll-free telephone number 1800-115767. You can also ask questions on telephone number 011-2331-4444 and post queries on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts by hashtag AskAIR. This can be heard on FM Gold channel and additional frequencies from 9:30 p.m. onwards. This program will also be available on our website newsonair.com and on our YouTube channel News on AIR Official. You can also follow us on the News on AIR app for updates.
In a major boost to goods and service tax mechanism, more than 495 lakh e-invoices have been generated on the NIC portal by 27,400 taxpayers within the first month of introduction of e-invoice system. The system was launched on 1st of October last month for businesses having aggregate turnover of more than 500 crore rupees in the financial year. The newly introduced system will not only enhance the ease of doing business but also play a pivotal role in reduction of compliance burden. In this system, data captured by the invoice registration portal will flow seamlessly to GSTR1 return of the taxpayer in the GST Common Portal. Starting with 8.4 lakh e-invoices on the first day, the usage has gradually picked up, and by the end of the last month, it generated around 35 lakh e-invoices in a single day. In yet another milestone, 641 lakh e-way bills were also generated in the last month, which is the highest figure in a month since the introduction of the e-way billing system. In Chhattisgarh, 27 Maoists have surrendered in Dantewada district in tribal Bastar division. 5 of these rebels carried rewards on their heads. These Maoists surrendered at Barsoor police station before senior officials of the district police yesterday. The surrendered Maoists were inspired by the Lon Varattu campaign being carried out by the police in the district. Lon Varattu means return home in the local tribal dialect Gondi.
The Uttar Pradesh government has filed an FIR against noted Urdu poet Munawwar Rana for supporting terrorist acts in France. A case in this regard has been filed in the Hazratganj police station of Lucknow. serious allegations of inciting hatred among communities under IPC sections 153A, 295A, 298, 505 and charges under the IT Act are filed against the poet who recently gave interviews supporting terrorist acts in France. Paddy procurement for Kharif 2020-21 has now crossed 2 crore metric ton mark with bumper procurement of 204.59 lakh metric tons or LMT of paddy in the procuring states and UTs of Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Tamil Nadu, Chandigarh, Jammu and Kashmir, Kerala and Gujarat till Saturday against last year's corresponding purchase of 168.87 LMT. This is an increase of 21.16% over last year. Out of the total purchase of 204.59 LMT, Punjab alone has contributed 142.81 LMT, which is 69.8% of the total procurement. About 17.23 lakh farmers have already been benefited from the ongoing KMS procurement operations with MSP value of 38,627.46 crore rupees.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has greeted people on the occasion of Prakash Purab of Sri Guru Ram Das Ji. In a tweet today, Mr. Modi said Sri Guru Ram Das Ji had placed great emphasis on serving others, ending all forms of inequality and discrimination. He said Guruji's quest for a kind and harmonious society inspires us all. Board of Control for Cricket in India, Bcci, has announced Reliance Jio as the title sponsor of the Women's T20 Challenge 2020. This is the first time a sponsor is partnering with the Bcci exclusively for the women's counterpart to the IPL. The board announced the development in a post on the IPL T20 website. And in IPL cricket for men, Delhi Capitals will take on Royal Challengers Bangalore in Abu Dhabi today. Earlier, Kolkata Knight Riders kept their playoff hopes alive by thrashing Rajasthan Royals by 60 runs at Dubai last night. With this win, Kolkata have moved to the 4th spot in the points table. On the other hand, Rajasthan are now out from the playoff contention after losing the match against Kolkata. In another match, Chennai Super Kings beat Kings 11 Punjab by 9 wickets at Abu Dhabi.
National capital Delhi's air quality remained in the very poor category today morning as the overall air quality index or AQI was recorded at 318. The city has been struggling with very poor air quality due to a spike in farm fires, calm winds and increased traffic movement among other reasons. And now let's take a look at the weather update for the day. The national capital Delhi will have a misty sky. Minimum temperature was recorded at 14 degrees Celsius and maximum will be around 30 degrees Celsius. Mumbai will have a mainly clear sky. Minimum temperature was 23 degrees Celsius and maximum will be around 34 degrees Celsius. In Chennai, there will be partly cloudy sky. Temperature will hover between 25 and 33 degrees Celsius. Kolkata will have a partly cloudy sky as well. Minimum temperature in the city was 24 degrees Celsius while maximum will be around 32 degrees. On to the north in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, minimum temperature was 13 degrees Celsius in Jammu while maximum will be around 31 degrees. The city will have a mainly clear sky. In Srinagar, sky will be mainly clear, becoming partly cloudy towards the afternoon or evening. Temperature in Srinagar will hover between 2 and 20 degrees Celsius. Leh in Ladakh will have a mainly clear sky, becoming partly cloudy towards the afternoon or evening. Minimum temperature was -3 degrees Celsius and maximum will be around 12 degrees Celsius. Gilgit will witness mainly clear sky, becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening, with temperature moving from 1 to 23 degrees Celsius. In Muzaffarabad, minimum temperature was 7 degrees Celsius, while maximum will be around 27 degrees. The sky will be mainly clear, becoming partly cloudy towards the afternoon or evening. Chandigarh will witness a mainly clear sky. Minimum temperature was 13 degrees Celsius, while maximum will be around 30 degrees Celsius.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. In Bihar, all arrangements in place for second phase of assembly elections. 94 constituencies spread over 17 districts to go for polls tomorrow. National COVID recovery rate reaches 91.68%. In Assam, schools reopen after a gap of 8 months. India asks Pakistan to immediately vacate Gilgit-Baltistan instead of altering its status. U.S. presidential campaign draws to a close as Donald Trump and Joe Biden crisscross the country. And in IPL cricket, Delhi Capitals to take on Royal Challengers Bangalore in Abu Dhabi today. And for details of these stories, you can always log on to our website www.newsonair.com. And with that, we end the Midday News.